What did you think?
Well, I was like, oh, the animals aren't being hurt. You know, we're just taking some of their milk and their eggs, and you know, it's okay. None of them are actually being harmed. But he said that we were taking advantage and using these animals for their reproductive organs. And when he said that, I was like, a light bulb went in my head. I'm like, that's really fucked up.
After learning all of that, I was like, okay, clearly the milk industry is equally as unethical as the beef industry, if not more unethical. The thing that really hit me the hardest when I was considering going vegan was that if you look at it like nutrition, what nutrition really is, what food really is, it's, you know, you need carbohydrates and fats and proteins on the macro, you know, from a macronutrient perspective. And all of these things are only made by plants. Animals just repurpose them after they, you know, eat plants. So people talk about the food chain, you know, how we're at the top of it. And I think that what we should be doing is, like, if the food chain has a source, if all of the food is coming from one place, instead of like having all of these middlemen in between and we're at the top of the food chain getting all of the, you know, killing these animals for food, why don't we just go straight to where the food is actually coming from, which is the plants, you know? And once that sort of light bulb went off for me, that's when I was like, okay, like, no more. We can produce all of the food that we need to be healthy and happy people just in the form of plants alone.
Yeah, it's really cool because Zach's like kind of like a vegan that comes from a very like science, fact-based background. So it's all science that has motivated you to like kind of move in this direction.
Yeah.
So people always argue like, it's like they're always saying like, oh, our ancestors ate meat. We've always done it this way.
Analogous situation would be slavery, because that was a tradition for hundreds of years. Slavery was going on for much longer than it has been not going on. And, you know, back then people would say, well, we've always been doing this. Why would we stop now? And the argument would be, well, because it's unethical, because we're benefiting off of the suffering and enslavement of these other beings, and that's not right.
The whole stigma of a vegan is like, how do you know if someone's a vegan?
Yeah, they'll tell you.
Yeah, so it's just people have like this aversion, and people get so triggered when they hear that.
Yeah.
And that when people...
Well, because people don't want to... People think of themselves... You know, almost everyone would consider themselves an animal lover. So then if someone considers themselves to be an animal lover, and then you show them... You make them acknowledge or confront the reality that is the fact that their dollars are funding the abuse and slaughter of these animals... then you're making them, it's a cognitive dissonance sort of thing where there's like an error message in your brain. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not aligned with integrity.
Yeah,
and the truth.
Because you're like, I care about animals, but I'm paying for them to be killed. You know, this is really uncomfortable. So instead of considering changing my behavior and considering, you know, stuff like that, I'm just gonna like
be offended,
be upset with this person for putting me into this state where I have these two realities that are incompatible. But I'm trying to, you know, so I have to ditch one of them. I have to like get rid of this idea that I'm actually contributing to this abuse of animals in order for me to maintain this sense, this belief that I'm a compassionate, animal-loving person. Mm-hmm. But if you spend time with a pig or spend time with a chicken or spend time with a cow, you know, it's so clear that they're just as present, they're just as there as a dog.
They can feel emotions, they can feel pain, they want to feel loved, and they want to love and be with their families. They're just like humans.
Yeah, it's transitively, we're killing the animals for our own enjoyment.
Yes.
That's the only reason. Yeah, for taste, you know? So we say we're killing the animals so that we can have food, and we want this food in particular because it tastes good to us and it's pleasurable to us. That means the animal is being killed for me to have pleasure. So, you know, if you were really a carnivore, and then watching an animal get slaughtered would be appetite.
Totally
you would salivate at that. You would get excited. You would be like, oh, this is making me hungry. Not, this is making me sick. This is making me really uncomfortable. I don't want to see this. You could fool people. That's the thing, is like the alternatives are getting so good that you could serve someone a cheeseburger and they might not notice at all that it's not, that it's a
plant-based.
Yeah, they might think that it's beef and that it's cheese, you know? So like when you get to that point where you can get ice cream and chicken wings and burgers and like all this stuff.
All the comfort foods that we love that don't want to give up.
All that stuff that we don't want to give up. If we can get all those things without contributing to the suffering and violence and the, you know, all the and be eating things that are better for us and better for our health, while also using the least amount of resources possible, like not using all these resources to feed livestock to then consume the livestock, just going straight to the plants, and we can still eat all those foods, then there's nothing left for any, there's no reason at all to continue to eat animal products.
Like I remember my friend told me that like the one turning point for me for stopping eating meat was when he told me that like all the suffering, all the pain, all the shit that they go through is still like in the fiber of the meat. And like when you consume it, you literally become it.
Yeah, it's all super connected. Like that meat carries with it like its past. And, you know, and on an energetic level, totally. This isn't really in the realm of like science or whatever, but like I totally agree that like you take on like it's the karma, I guess. Yes. You know, you're taking on the karma of the, you know, same with like when you interact with anyone, right? Like eating something is a very intimate thing. Like putting something into your body, you're taking on, you know, what goes with that, whatever that is. And with plants, it's like they take energy from the sun and they take dirt and carbon and nitrogen from the dirt and the air and water, and then they just assemble carbohydrates and amino acids and all this stuff. And then so when you eat that, you're just getting energy, like chemical energy
from the source,
from the sun. Like everything comes from plants initially. So eating animals is just getting sloppy seconds, really. We're just getting we're getting secondhand nutrition. There's something about it that it's just, it kind of seems to, it almost has to unfold naturally, you know? And certain people are ready at certain times, and some people aren't ready, you know? And that doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them dumb or anything. It doesn't.
Yeah, everyone's on their path.
There's the hedonism argument, which is like, just I value my own pleasure like more than anything, you know? But like I was talking about earlier, like if that's your metric for like what is okay and what's not okay, that would justify a terrible heroin habit. You'd say, I enjoy it. It feels good. I'm not going to stop. I don't care if I'm causing problems. I don't care if like
shit's falling apart.
If I'm ruining relationships. If I'm like my finances aren't going well. Like if my health is going down the drain.
I'm
willing to continue this because it gives me some pleasure.
Yep.
And then speaking of the victim side of thing, like without getting too dark, I want to bring up the whole rapist thing. Like rapists enjoy raping. That's why they rape, you know. But it's not a personal choice to do that because there's a victim involved. But if you say that like their pleasure is a justification for what they're doing, like that, you know, obviously raping a human being is like a very serious offense, and not to say that like you going out and getting some chicken or something is on that level, but like if you're doing something just for your own pleasure and it is imposing suffering on something else, then like that's not a personal choice. That's why rape is illegal. And it's like you can go to prison for that. It's because your pleasure does not come before the liberty of other beings.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So yeah, and the cheese, the casomorphin in cheese that like is like a very mild opiate to keep the calf coming back to its mother to keep drinking milk. When you take the cow's milk and you condense it down,
it's like a concentrate. It's like a dab.
It's like a dab, yeah.
It's like a dab of cheese.
Cheese is like milk dabs, bro. Cheese is like milk dabs, dude. Yeah, just one meal at a time. Don't
make it so hard.
Yeah, don't make it into a huge thing. It's just, it's not about like, hey, everybody, look, I'm a vegan, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to make more compassionate choices and healthier choices and, conscientious choices with regard to the environment and to animals and stuff.